Hey, what's up? I want to talk about game influence and like layers of abstraction and shit. If that's confusing, I'll explain it as we go along. So first, I want to point out that most games today are inspired mainly by games that came out in the last 20 years. Mainly, I'm going to be talking about Morrowind. That's our first example is Morrowind, right? What we don't really think about too much. I should, I should write that better. We don't really think about too much is how the fuck these other games came to be, right? These games are legendary. There's not much better. These games are legendary. They impact a lot of fucking people. They're cherished by a lot of people. Where'd they come from? Well, Morrowind, as we know, came from D&D. A lot of things come from D&D, but Morrowind notably came from D&D. Well, where the fuck did D&D come from? Well, that came from Tolkien. Tolkien is a very notable artist. Not artist. He is a very notable writer, right? His works, Lord of the Rings in particular, have inspired a lot of fucking things. It's very important that Tolkien is noted as an inspiration for a lot of these fantasy influences. He basically invented this genre on his back. I think so anyway. But where'd he come from? Where'd Tolkien's inspiration come from? As far as I know, it's the old story, Beowulf, something I read in school. And I had a movie sometime in 2000s, not sure when. But it's very curious that all this came from Beowulf. What I'm talking about when I'm talking about layers of abstraction is that, as you can see here, we have multiple, layers of inspiration. And for each layer that we go up, detail is lost. So D&D had so many different things that Morrowind simply does not have. In Tolkien's universe, there are so many different, I don't want to say races, but there's all types of things that didn't carry over D&D. And Beowulf, I don't know, is there a Grendel in Tolkien's novels? I haven't read Lord of the Rings in a long time. But there's layers of abstraction here. And for every layer, we lose detail. It's like resolution on a picture, right? Every time you zoom in, detail is lost. I want to give a few more examples to mirror this, to really show off this layers of abstraction thing. Next, I want to do Zelda. In the same time frame, as I understand it anyway, Zelda also came from Tolkien, and it had like side influences, right? King Arthur and Celtic myths. So Zelda came from a variety of like okay, the story is Miyamoto was walking around in his backyard and he picked up a bug or something. That was Pokemon, and he was walking around his backyard. And he made up Zelda because he was exploring his backyard. It's kind of bullshit, right? We all know that Zelda was not made from these things. When I put it like this, King Arthur, Tolkien's Celtic mythos, that kind of makes more sense. You feel it. You see it in Zelda's inspiration, right? It's in its DNA. These things absolutely carried over. Probably one of the bigger games that have ever had this thing, this layer of abstraction thing about it, and continues to be extracted upon today, is Dwarf Fortress. And this is kind of what I want to talk about today in terms of like as like a main case study for how bad this gets, right? So Dwarf Fortress came from four things as I'm able to source them. Number one is Ultima. Number two is hack, not dot hack, but like hack, like rogue hack. Number three is Starflight. Number four, you might not believe this, but Cyberpunk 2020, the tabletop. Cyberpunk 2020 actually indirectly inspires a lot of things, because it uses a type of like body targeting system, body injury system. This came from Cyberpunk. Your right arm is injured. Like, yeah, that's a Cyberpunk thing. All right, so this is layer one of abstraction. Dwarf Fortress and Adam and Tarn. I forgot which one is which. They're directly inspired by these four things. So who are they inspired by? I promise I'm going somewhere with this, by the way. This isn't complete bullshit, I promise. So Hack, I'm going to do this first because I have it in my notes first, came from Rogue. As I was talking about earlier, Hack is a rogue like. I almost put Rouge. And Rogue came from Colossal Cave Adventure, which is a game made by some guy and his wife. And they were inspired by some cave in Kentucky. So thanks, Kentucky. Starflight. Oh yeah, and Tolkien. Don't forget Tolkien, because they read Tolkien. Everyone read Tolkien. Starflight. This seems to be, from what I'm able to find out, this lucky game design, right? Like the guy in the interview said that, yeah, we kind of just got lucky. We didn't really mean to make an open world exploration game. We kind of did. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, it was kind of cool, right? It's our first time making a game. For a lot of these developers, it's their first time making a game. So their inexperience, their naivety, it kind of it carries through as a type of new inspiration. Is this type of stuff that makes me actually like new developers more than old seasoned developers, because old seasoned developers are very stuck in their ways, right? They don't really have the chops to do new and exciting stuff anymore because they're old, and old people are lame, as we all know. Cyberpunk is probably the most complicated one. Um, Well, it's not complicated. It's just long. So Cyberpunk 2020 came from a novel, Hardwired, and it came from Blade Runner. Now, I did not take any notes on Hardwired, okay? Because I kind of just wanted to yap about it first. So we're going to talk about Blade Runner's inspiration and not Hardwired. All right, sorry. As we all know, Blade Runner is an adaptation of what was it called? Do Androids Dream of Electric Shape? Right? Yep. And that novel was inspired by noir fiction, of course, an entire genre, and another novel called More Than. That's not a T. It's a cool T, but it's not a T. Human. More Than Human was kind of in cahoots with its sister novel, Baby is Three. Something about like Down syndrome or something. I can't remember. I didn't read that. Okay. And lastly, we have Ultima. I think everyone knows the story of Ultima by now. Ultima came from wizardry, and wizardry, believe it or not, came from Ultima. These things were developed at the same time alongside some other game that nobody remembers. Wizardry was also inspired by a game on this thing called Pluto. It was called Oublet. It means dungeon. And Oublet, there's not really much documentation on this, but from what I've seen of it, it kind of looks like it was inspired by D&D, right? And D&D, as we all know, was inspired by Tolkien. So we have these layers of abstraction through all these fucking games. And something, the most stark thing I want you to understand, like carry home here, is that Dwarf Fortress is nothing like Blade Runner. It's kind of weird how we ended up in the situation where Dwarf Fortress, Zelda, and Morrowind are heralded by everyone, right? These are the greatest games of all time. We all love our Zelda. We love our Dwarf Fortress. We love our own world. We love our whatever game is inspired by Dwarf Fortress. But we don't really talk about the things that came before it. We talk about Rogue because we have Rogue likes, right? But we don't play Rogue. No one plays Rogue. No one plays Hack. No one plays Ultima. No one plays Wizardry. They just came out with like a remake, but the people who played it, like if you look in fucking reviews, everyone's like, yeah, this is exactly as I remember in the fucking 1900s. Back when we were driving steamboats down the Mississippi River. They're all like that. They're all old heads, right? People like you and me who were born in modern times. We don't go backwards and play these things. Now, is this overall talk just going to be, hey, you should probably go read Tolkien, or you should go read Beowulf? Kinda, a little bit, but I think that like I kind of want to bring up the conversation of the types of developers that are born from layers of abstraction, right? I'm not sure if this is all the camps. I can be persuaded off of this, but it seems that we have two types of developers, and by developer I mean game designers. We have foundational, and then we have builders. The foundation is laid from the source material, right? If your source material is Dwarf Fortress, you're probably going to have a shaky foundation because there's a lot of holes in Dwarf Fortress. Because Dwarf Fortress is just the interpretation of all of these different sources of media coming together into one. It's just one guy's interpretation. You can't use one guy's interpretation as everything. So it would be necessary for you to go back. If you want to use Dwarf Fortress to your inspiration, it would be necessary for you to go back into these previous fucking games and try to draw out your own conclusions and then weave that into your Dwarf Fortress inspiration, and you'll come out with something far stronger, I think, or something that's radically different, most likely. But that's foundational game developer, and then a builder game developer. They take this thing and then they abstract on it more, right? You're not going to take all of Celtic mythos and King Arthur and Tolkien. You're just going to take Zelda, and you're going to take the Master Sword inside the stone, and you're going to take the Triforce, kind of. You're going to take the spirits, Naru, Pharaon. I forgot their fucking names. I don't know. Finn. You're going to take the three spirits. You're going to take the idea of Ganondorf, right? Some evil thing that comes back over and over and over again. It's generational. You know what? I'm just realizing now that's a JoJo reference. This generational evil that you continuously have to fucking fight against like a bad disease. You're going to take these things away from Zelda, and that's how you're going to make your next game. It's a completely different way of thinking. It's so light. A builder is just they're basically building on clouds. They don't really care to have a solid foundation. They don't really need one. They're making something brand new just from a bunch of ideas that they abstracted away from something else and put it here. And what's funny is that builders often end up with the better games, right? Like the more exciting games, the more interesting games, because they're using stuff that we can directly relate to, we directly find familiar. I'm not saying that either of these are bad. I'm just pointing out the two different perspectives, I think. And I guess that that brings me to the main question, right? Should we stand on So we have this guy. Those are his shoulders. Should we be like this? Should we be standing on his shoulders? Should we be chilling out, or should we be building from the ground up, brick by brick? Should we build the foundation and then go upwards? I think by the end, if we did this, we would be far taller than the giant. But it's a potential thing, right? We have the potential to be taller than the giant. In the end, Dwarf Fortress inspired everything else. In the end, D&D inspired everything else. In the end, Tolkien inspired everything else. It's only with a foundation that you can go this high. The giant is only so tall, right? Like the building that you'd be able to build is a 5-6 gigachad, and this is just a manlet. It's completely fucking different. And I'm wondering which way is like the correct way. Actually, there is no correct way, right? Like, obviously, there's developers for both, but which way would I personally want to go in? Probably foundational. There's also something else to be said about this, and that's about like modern video games and like how so many of them are builders. Earlier I said that not earlier, but like a couple seconds ago, I said that builders often make the better games in the end, right? But is this true? Do they actually make the better games? When I think about the games I've played the most, they're often games that are very low level in their inspiration. I think that we still love Morrowind, Zelda, and Dwarf Fortress more than we love, I don't know, like Cube World, for example. Cube World was inspired by Dwarf Fortress, Zelda, and something else. None of it really carried over. Maybe the Zelda part kind of carried over a little bit. Like, did it? You could argue that, sure. And then Valoran, which is an open source implementation of Cube World, says that it's also inspired by Cube World, Zelda, Dwarf Fortress. Like it says it's inspired by these things, but like when they say Zelda, they mean Breath of the Wild. They don't mean the original Zelda. They don't mean the sense of discovery and Miyamoto in his backyard talking to ladybugs and picking up beetles and torturing them to death. They mean Cube World in terms of the aesthetic, the look. They don't talk about like the exploration or like the whimsy of Cube World. And when they're talking about Dwarf Fortress, they're talking about shit that doesn't exist. And probably never will exist because this game is written in Rust, and Rust is difficult. And no one wants to fucking work in Rust. But my point is that this is a builder, but it's built so fucking high that we are no longer where the clouds are. There's no more fucking clouds down here anymore. Now we are in space. We are in the stratosphere. We have left the atmosphere. We are above it. I have to double check to make sure the stratosphere is actually inside the atmosphere. Hold on. It is. Okay. It is. It is. All right. We're above the atmosphere. It's weird. And as a result, Valorant feels very confused. It feels like a confused game. It looks like Cube World. It doesn't play at all like anything here, except for Cube World. Um, it has Breath of the Wild's glider, and that's pretty much all. You can't throw your fucking weapon. You can't chop down a fucking tree. You can't break up the environment. There is no water physics, right? Like, there is no colonies, and they say these things are coming, but once again, it's written in Rust. Who the fuck wants to develop a game in Rust? That's going to take a while. That's going to take a couple of decades, I think. My point is that because we've built so fucking high, we've gone so far up, the game is no longer stable. No longer are we standing on the shoulders of giants. We're standing on like a one-legged thing. And it's shaky as fuck. His fucking legs bending like that, kinda. And it's kind of messy. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's shit like Valorant, this cautionary tale, not just of open source development, but of like just probably a bad game design in general. I don't want to say bad because that sounds kind of harsh, right? But like misdirected game design in general that make things like Valorant. That this is what makes things like Diablo 4 another cautionary tale, right? It's so weird. Diablo is built on Diablo, but Diablo 4 is in its own it's in space now. Its inspiration are other games that are inspired by it, right? Like Path of Exile. It's not inspired by Last Epoch, but I'm sure it's hell. I'm sure it will be. Because Last Epoch is kind of diabolical, but Last Epoch is inspired by Diablo and Path of Exile, and Path of Exile is directly inspired by Diablo. And while their inspirations for Last Epoch might not exist yet, but they might in the future. But Diablo used to be inspired by, like dungeon crawling and all this shit. But Diablo is a foundational game, and it inspired all these things, including itself, and that I think that's hurting it. I think that we're getting very mid experiences because we are no longer building a foundation. We're no longer building based off of our artist's interpretation. And that's kind of what I want to like game designers are artists. I don't know if anyone has said otherwise. You can call them authors. You can call them fucking like they are artists. We are a type of artist. And as artists, our greatest skill is interpretation. The ability for us to look at something and come up with an idea from it. When an artist looks at a fucking wall, we come away with a completely different perspective and thought pattern than someone who doesn't. And of course, there's something else to be said about how like modern studios have this relationship where the CEO kind of dictates who's being put into which position. And the devs who know the game, who play the fucking game, who are making the game, don't really have too much of a say about who goes where. As I said, game designers are artists, but the one who's leading the team, your project lead, your game director, your creative executive, like whatever fucking name you have for this guy. We all have this guy in our fucking studio. He's all the same guy, and the only way he got here was nepotism. He's not here because he's fucking proven to be good and have good ideas. Like, a game designer comes from an ideas guy. Now, okay, listen. I know this sounds like a fucking joke because if there's one thing game developers hate to fucking hear is that, hey guys, I have an idea for a game, you're going to fucking love this. But I'm not joking. This guy is the most important guy on every fucking team. This is my hot take. My hot take is that if you have a bad ideas guy, if you have an ideas guy who has shitty ideas, your game is going to be mediocre at best and trash at worst. But if you have a good ideas guy, then this guy will boost your game into the fucking stratosphere, into a place you have never seen before. And if he fucks it up, or if your team fucks it up because you can't support the weight of his ambition, your game's just going to be mediocre. It's a completely different range of shit that's going on here. And it's all based around your ideas guy. Your ideas guy is everything. He's not just your fucking team lead. He is your fucking game designer. He's your lead game designer. He says how everything gets implemented. He wants to know every little fucking detail. And a good ideas guy will carry your ass, bro. I swear to God, he will carry your ass. But that's not how we build our fucking game designers. That's not how we build our fucking teams. And I don't know whose fault this is. But the guys who get in through nepotism, like, yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy. Yeah, I worked with this guy in the past. He was good to work with. Even though we didn't really talk to each other, he was good to work with. They say this shit to the fucking CEO, and CEO hears this, and he's like, oh, good. Yeah, bring him on. Bring him on and put him into one of the highest positions that dictate the entire direction of the fucking project alongside you. And then give him a lot of money. And then that guy will be able to bring in the other guy, and the other guy will be able to bring in the next guy, and the next guy will be able to bring in the next guy, and you will suffer. This is you forevermore. Is that okay? I don't know. I got a bit off track with this with this rant here. Coming back to like Dwarf Fortress like inspiration. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So as we know, you can stand on the shoulders of giants, or you can build up your own foundation and be a real Giga Chat, right? But something I wanted to point out is that like we have this issue, that not just a stratosphere issue, but it seems that a lot of our games, and in the fantasy genre anyway, we have this core concept of D&D. Obsidian did this fantastic documentary where they were talking about like how the environment was working at Obsidian, and they said something that really didn't trigger me, but like it activated my fucking neurons, right? And I was like, wait, this is clicking onto something. So Obsidian in the office, they were talking about, oh yeah, we have so much fucking fun. We have party hour, and we also host our own tabletop sessions. We play D&D in the office. What? You motherfuckers play D&D? Yes. And not just the fucking head honcho, not just the fucking king, but everybody plays D&D. Everybody in the fucking office sits around the table at the session and pulls out their fucking character sheets. This is crazy. This is insane. Because the last time I was in the fucking office, not working remotely, you went home after you were done working. It's just a work culture now to go the fuck home and then come back the next day. You have responsibilities, right? They have a fucking Monday. What's the symbol for Monday? Okay, let's say you don't have the fucking Monday. Let's say you have Trello. What's the symbol? What's the symbol for Trello? Oh Jesus. You have this board with tasks on it, right? It's a task board. Or maybe there's a fucking whiteboard in the office, and there's notes on it, like little sticky notes on it with shit that has to get done. And you come into the office, pull your fucking note off the board, sit at your fucking desk, log your hours, so we have to time track these days. And then when it's time to clock out, you press the stop button and you go home. But there's no like okay, sometimes what will happen is that like at lunchtime or just at the end of the day, we all have to go drinking or we go out eating. Basically we go out to waste money. And nobody likes to fucking do this. I don't like to fucking do this. But for some reason, the team lead always likes to fucking do it. And if you get on the team lead's bad side, you're going to have some fucking trouble. He wants to go out because he has a sad fucking home life, and you're going to suffer with him because he wants you to. Who wants to go drinking? And if you say no, oh well, you're a bad culture fit, right? That's what the fuck they say. You're a bad culture. Oh, okay, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm getting off topic again. I'm getting way off topic. What I'm trying to say here is that the company culture these days does not involve sitting around playing fucking tabletop. Not only because everyone wants to go the fuck home, nobody wants to be here longer than we have to be here. This shit is a fucking job. But also because nobody plays D&D. Okay, this might seem crazy to you, but once upon a time, nerds all played D&D. We all played tabletop. We all played TTRPGs. It doesn't matter if it's fucking Pathfinder. It doesn't matter if it's fucking Dungeons and Dragons. It doesn't matter. Like, it does not fucking matter. I was playing something I should not have been playing. What the fuck was it called? I think it was called Fantasia. I can't remember what the fuck it was called. I was playing a terrible TTRPG. It was one of the most complex fucking things in the world. Oh, Jesus. I'm having flashbacks. Oh, Jesus Christ. No. Hold on, bro. I have to find this. I think I have the PDF still. Give me a second. Did I say Fantasia? I meant Anima. Not Fantasia. Anima. Oh my god. You don't understand how fucked this was, bro. I loved it, but at the same time, every time I had to sit down and fucking play this dog. Look at how complicated this shit is, bro. What is going on? They have psychic powers. They have fucking fantasy, normal fantasy magic powers. They have sci-fi cybernetics, I think. There was so much bullshit. And the classes, oh my god, don't get me started on the classes. Hold on. Can I find them? Here we go, the classes. For some reason, there's like 18 different hybrid classes. Here's the warrior. Here's the acrobatic warrior, which is different than the normal warrior. Here's the paladin. Here's the dark paladin. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Here's the weapon master, another warrior. Here's a technician. It's a dexterity-based fighter. Here's Tao, martial artist. I forgot the martial art shit. Lots of key points. They have fucking key points, psychic points, magic points. Here's the ranger. Here's the shadow. No. What I want to know is here we go, the wizard mentalist and the warrior summoner. The warrior mentalist. What is going on? I'm sorry. What the fuck was I saying, brother? Oh my god. I had fucking trauma flashbacks. Oh my god. Okay. Um what I'm saying here is that no, like back in the day, this was the vibe. TTRPGs were the vibe. This was the wave. Everyone did this. If you were a game developer, you loved video games, right? Video games were life. Video games were love. You loved this. And you also loved TTRPGs. Everyone did. This industry, our industry, the games industry, was about video games. It was about this hobby. It was about this culture. It was about this. We loved this. We were immersed in this. And this is where all the magic came out. This is where you got your John Carmacks. This is where you got your War Inspectors. This is the environment in which these legendary things were born. And these days, these motherfuckers down here, they do not play video games. I'll always remember the first team I ever worked on. I asked my manager, my team lead, so what's your favorite video game? Like what do you play, right? And he said, I don't have time for video games. Now, as a game developer, especially one who's been alive this long, as a human being who's been alive this long, I understand damn well that when someone says I don't have time for video games, what that actually means is I don't fucking play them. Let's be clear here. It doesn't matter if you have 5 kids and you work 2 jobs. If you cut back 1 hour on sleep, you have time for video games. For anyone who has video games as their passion, you will always say, I will find the fucking time for video games. I will not watch Netflix. I will not listen on TikTok. I will not listen to some fucking audiobook. I will not watch YouTube. I have time for video games. We all have time for video games. I asked this same guy what his favorite game was, and he says, you know, Pokemon. Like what? Which Pokemon? Oh, all of them. I love all of them. I love all the Pokemon. You know, something that struck me when I was younger. I was reading a Game Informer because you know I have a fucking passion for video games, and I love video games. So obviously I was going to read Game Informer, even though it was just capitalist swill. It was just garbage. These guys are terrible opinions. Anyway, Game Informer, right? Rest in peace, those guys. Game Informer had this article from Shigeru Miyamoto. I worship this guy as a fucking god back then. Okay, I think everyone did. Miyamoto was God. He could do no wrong. Miyamoto was over here grinning with his fucking bowl cut. And the interviewer asked him, "So what type of people do you want working at Nintendo?" And you know what this motherfucker said? "We want people who don't play video games." Now, the context for this is that when you don't play video games, you come in with a unique perspective. What I say earlier, artists are all about interpretation. And for someone who has never played a video game before in their life, their interpretation is brand new. It's fresh. It's cool, right? Like if you're a fucking video game virgin, your perspective on how this industry runs and like the games and these inspirations is super valuable, right? So this makes sense. It didn't make sense to me in hindsight, but I grew to understand it. I grew to kind of respect it, right? Video game versions are valuable. Someone who's never interacted with this medium, someone who's coming with a fresh pair of eyes. This is valuable. This is useful. But to say that what you're looking for are people with no game experience in totality is fucking crazy. Not just crazy, it's kind of stupid. I think like using more context, using more like if I steel man Miyamoto here, what I assume what he was trying to say is that we're hiring foundationalists, and foundationalists draw from all these real world experiences, right? Like remember, CCA, Colossal Cave Adventure, came from some guy who went to Mammoth Cave in Kentucky and read some Tolkien. Starflight came from some guy who did Lucky Game Design. Not Cyberpunk. Yeah, Blade Runner came from some guy who was just reading about Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep and was like, yo, we should like make a movie off that. And Cyberpunk was like, yo, that movie was sick. Like what Nintendo wanted, maybe wants, I'm not sure now, were people who were going to build foundational games. That was their entire philosophy. They were not builders. They played other games, and like one of the most valuable YouTube channels I've ever fucking seen come out of the game development sphere is fuck, what's his name? Here we go, Sakurai. I can't believe I forgot my boy's name. So this is one of the most valuable fucking channels, right? Because it's one of the first time we've had like Nintendo game developers being able to speak candidly about their inspirations and like how the fuck they make their games. I love this, and it shows very clearly that game developers play other games at Nintendo, right? They've played Final Fantasy. They've played fucking Dragon Quest. They've played Call of Duty. They've played fucking Yakuza. They've played all of these fucking things. They absolutely have played them. Western games, Eastern games, it does not matter. They've played them, but they don't fucking talk about them. I think there's a culture in Nintendo, that is a bit off topic. There's a culture in Nintendo, and Sakurai kind of points out, is that when you're pitching a game or communicating a game, you never want to say it's like XYZ. They hate that. Not hate that, but like they don't like to do it. They don't like to point out where their influences come from. I don't know if it's like crass or if it's like if it's sloppy or something. Western developers, we talk about our inspirations all the fucking time. Like, oh yeah, it's like Dungeons and Dragons, but in space. We do that. It's not just gamers that do that. Developers do that. It's how we communicate our games. It gives gamers a pretty solid idea and other developers a solid idea about what the fuck this game is going to be like. Valorant is like Cube World combined with Zelda combined with Dwarf Fortress. It's not at all. It's literally just Cube World. But okay, sure. I guess maybe that's why. So, anyway, sorry. Like all of this is like super fucking off topic. The point is that Nintendo seems to have this thing where they want to build up foundational game developers, and that's very interesting. It's very interesting they want to build it up. And what's even more interesting is that they don't talk about table. Well, actually, they do talk about tabletop sometimes. So tabletop still leaks in the Obsidian culture. This thing here where developers would all sit around and we all have the same passion for video games and we all play tabletop together after work because it's fun and because video games are fun and because nerd shit is fun. We're all nerds. It's not the case anymore. Video games are corporatized. You can't do that. I'm pretty sure it's like breaking a labor law. I don't have time for Pokemon. I'm sorry, I don't have time for tabletop. Sorry guys, I have to go home to my fucking wife. Anyways, I'm kind of upset about this. about this part. Game developers don't love video games anymore. They don't play video games anymore. They have the time to, they don't. And as a result, I feel like our art form, because once again, we're artists, it's stagnating. We're becoming mid. Not just because our fucking inspirations are like lacking, but also because no matter if you're a foundational person who's supposed to get their knowledge from reading old texts and fucking brushing over old tomes and deep, dusty crypts, or if you're a foundational builder and your ideas are supposed to come from a breadth of knowledge of different points in culture and anime and video games and like all this other shit is supposed to craft what the fuck you make. Despite that, I think both sides are running. The Diablo 4s are dying. They're getting old. They're not getting old, but like you can feel they're dated. You can feel that there's not really anything fresh outside of something you've already seen before. And then the foundational builders, they're just not being built at all. However, when they are built, remember, Valoran is from Zelda, but what they actually mean by Zelda is Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was a completely different fucking director, a brand new take, a fresh set of eyes. And he made something legendary. He made a brand new fucking foundational game, and it stands head and shoulders above every other fucking Zelda game. And it's crazy. It's crazy. Like Nintendo's gamble paid off. They hired somebody back in the day who was foundational, who didn't really have too much experience with this shit, and they popped off and they did something amazing from a brand new perspective. There's not many inspirations that Breath of the Wild draws from. It's all vibes, and that's nuts. Anyways, I'm here to say that I'm mourning, and that you should probably go read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. You should go watch more Tolkien. You should read more Tolkien. You should fucking read some George R.R. Martini, right? You should go read that guy. No, don't just watch the fucking TV show. Go read. Go read his shit. Or at least find like a summary on YouTube. Like House of the Dragon is like one fraction of the global timeline of Game of Thrones. It's just this one fucking thing, this one period in history where this one lifetime existed, right? It's before the dragons died. And then Game of Thrones take place like somewhere around here, kinda, a little bit. And before House of the fucking Dragon, there's all of this. Like, there's so much richness that comes from the world of outside of video games, and you can build a foundation off that. Something that a lot of Cyberpunk tabletop fans assumed was that Cyberpunk was built off of this book. I spelled it wrong. Neuromancer. Whatever. I spelled it wrong. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. It came from Neuromancer. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. I think I was about to fucking say Necromancer. There we go. Neuromancer. Came from Neuromancer. Don't look at that one. Apparently, old boy, he didn't fucking read Neuromancer until after he made Cyberpunk, because everyone kept comparing it to it. So it was just like sheer coincidence. But like the fact that these two things can exist at the same time, different inspirations, probably drawing from the same source material, it just goes to show you how important artist interpretation is and how radically different things can be crafted from it. I've read Neuromancer. Neuromancer is an insane fucking book. For like fat contact pads, that's going to stick with me for the rest of my fucking life. They said the contact pads were as big as a fat woman's thighs. Where the rubber meets the road, this part is as big as a fat woman's thighs. You know how wild that car has to look like? That's going to stick with me for the rest of my fucking life. And I don't know where it's going to leak into my next work, but it's definitely going to leak in. That's crazy. That's nuts. They're that wide? Jesus, what type of wheels are these? What type of car would this guy be driving? It's interpretation. It's artists. This is what an artist fucking does. And we don't do this anymore. And I'm sorry. No, that's foundational. Our foundationals don't do this anymore. I don't know why. I hope to see more. I really do hope to see more. Because as it is right now, all of game design is just a series of levers and pulleys, right? This one goes up, this one goes down, this one goes up, this one also goes up. Open world? Yes. Microtransactions? No. Building? Yes. So like, you see what I'm saying? Like, turn-based? Yes. This is how our developers are making our games now. It's just a series of fucking switches. And this is stupid, man. This is not how we should be building our fucking game. I don't know. I'm kind of pissed off. At the same time, I understand how it ended up like this. I understand that the culture has evolved and like video games aren't owned by nerds anymore. And that the people who love this shit aren't necessarily the people who are making it anymore. So where are you? Yes, you. Where the fuck are you? I don't care if you're someone who only plays video games. I don't care if you're some guy who's a grunt on some guy's team. You're just a fucking technical artist or something. Where are you? You are a nerd, right? You're a fucking geek. Not just Star Wars and Star Trek. You go deeper. You know obscure shit that no one else fucking knows about. And you don't talk about it at all. You don't fucking post about it at all. You don't make any fucking YouTube videos. You don't have a fucking RSS feed. You don't have a fucking blog. Yes, those still exist. Check the indie web. It's just CSS and HTML. It exists. Where the fuck are you? Our games are being made by people who don't fucking love video games. And you're ghost. You're gone. You're missing. You, motherfucker. You. Where the fuck are you at? You are the perfect fucking ideas guy. Maybe somebody laughed at your fucking face. Right? Maybe somebody said, haha, you're an ideas guy. Lame. But maybe you actually do have good ideas and you can feel it. It's like an ambition that burns in your fucking chest and you have it. Where the fuck are you at? Why are you not doing anything with your talents? You have all these fucking skills available. You have all this shit available to you. And some asshole came and said, "Oh no, your first game has to be Pong. You should go make Pong first. Otherwise, you're gonna burn out. You don't know what the fuck you're doing." Ignore them. Go make your fucking dream game, dude. If you can't make the fucking game, make a blog about the game. Call it Imaginary Game. Go make that shit. What the fuck are you doing? Where are you at? Our industry is fucking dead. And if something's going to come out of the ashes, it's you, you fucking idiot. It's you. You are coming out. But you haven't fucking done anything. You haven't shared any fucking knowledge. You haven't told us about your cool fucking world. You haven't told us about your fucking ideas. You haven't fucking made a fucking video about. Don't be fucking intimidated by these idiots who don't engage in our hobby, in our fucking culture. They have no clue what the fuck they're talking about. You need to get out there. This isn't a call to action. I'm just questioning you. What the fuck are you doing? You come home after work every fucking day and you don't write shit. You don't tell your friends shit. You don't tell the world shit. Where are you? Fuck, dude. Sick. I'm fucking sick.